Welcome back to Dominant Mets Nation. And today we got a bit of an interesting video, a video that I'm actually going to need your help for. So I'm going to need you to stick around. Okay, so let's get to it right now. The New York Mets just lost to the LA Dodgers. But I got to say, despite having a loss, I personally feel very, very good. I feel proud of my team and I feel hopeful for the future. That's how I'm feeling. Let me know. How are you feeling? Really, how are you feeling? Okay, we're going to go over some reasons why I'm extremely hopeful despite some things not going right. Not going right. Okay, all right. Today, it was a blowout. We lost. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We lost 10-0 to the LA Dodgers. It was about time for the Dodgers. They were bound to break out. They got some all-star MVP hitters, Betts, Otani, Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman. So, okay, they were bound to break out, going up against Adrian Hauser, quite possibly our worst pitcher, and quite possibly a guy who's not going to be in the rotation, you know, in the near future. Especially with Senga coming back, McGill coming back, Peterson coming back, Christian Scott potentially coming up. So guys like Adrian Hauser have an opportunity right now. They are basically essentially pitching for their role on this team. I don't think he's going to be a starter for much longer, especially if he can't find his control. Okay, so today we're going to get to a lot. We're going to cover a little bit about the game, not too much. We're going to get to some important comments from Mendoza. Then we're going to get to some depth options. We're going to look at that because obviously Francisco Alvarez was a huge hit. So we want to see what the Mets have potentially in the minor leagues, AAA, AA. What's going on there? Let's look at the depth that Stearns built. And then we're going to get into David Stearns. And I want to look at his foresight, because I think there are a lot of things that were underestimated, that David Stearns had excellent foresight about this team. Okay, all right, so before we get into this video, as always, if you're a passionate Major League Baseball fan, especially baseball fan, please please subscribe. Really helps out the channel with this algorithm. It really does an immense help. So subscribe. We love our baseball here. If you love baseball, this is the channel for you. Okay, so this whole weekend, what I'm doing is I'm deciphering. First of all, I wasn't impressed with the Dodgers at all. I really wasn't. Their bullpen I wasn't impressed with. Their bottom of the lineup obviously has some issues. Their starting rotation, their pitchers, they threw a lot of pitchers. Obviously, they have injuries, so their depth with regards to their backup pitchers, I wasn't really impressed about. And obviously, they are very, very top heavy. So this is what I was weighing in my mind. Would I rather be a team who has a couple MVP type players, but be a little weak in the bottom of the lineup, be very top heavy, not have that even depth? Or would I rather be like the Mets, who are more of a balanced team? If the first three guys don't succeed, you have the bottom of the lineup. The bottom of the lineup like Bader, McNeil, Tyrone Taylor, DJ Stewart, they've been coming through. So there's not as much pressure on guys like Lindor and Alonso. And of course, during this streak, and obviously I got to mention it, they've won their 5th series in a row, and that is extremely important. So even though we did lose in what was a laugher today, what's most important is we are winning series, and we are winning series against opponents like the Dodgers, the Braves, teams that are over 500 consistently. So I really got to give Mendoza kudos. Okay, so who would I rather be? And right now, it just seems like it's a no-brainer that I'd rather be in an organization like the New York Mets. If you listen to the LA Dodgers fans, they are not happy. They are not happy. If you look at that team right now, the guys that they kind of signed to fill in the gaps, like Chris Taylor, guys who are on that team, Kike Hernandez, who have been successful in the past, are really not cutting it. So give David Stearns credit for properly evaluating this Mets team because guys are contributing from all over the place despite this game. This game, you got to remember, when you put your foot down to the pedal, and the Mets did that on Saturday night. We went through a whole heck of a lot of relief pitchers. You're gonna have games like this. You're gonna have games like this, and I believe Carlos Mendoza had to go full throttle on Saturday night. That was the deal breaker right there. That was if we were going to win the series, and I like that. So to have a game like today where we get blown out, it happens. What would you rather lose? 10-0 and get a chance to rest your players, or lose a heartbreaker 3-2. Everybody, it gets overused, overworked. So at the end of the day, this kind of works out better for us. It really does. It really does. Okay, so let's get into Carlos Mendoza, because Carlos Mendoza, he has a lot to do with how the Mets are playing. And I gotta give Carlos Mendoza credit, because in the beginning of the season, I kind of thought, and it was really hard to evaluate, but I kind of thought there were times where he appeared to not really have a good grasp on what he was doing. When you're losing 5 games in a row, it kind of appears that way. It really does. But for him to rally back, to bring this team together, to have us playing as a collective unit where every guy, where there's a different hero every night, whether it's Marte on Saturday night, whether it's Lindor on Friday night, Harrison Bader, he's been hitting a lot better. Tyron Taylor, he's had a couple key hits in the beginning. DJ Stewart. So we've had a bunch of different so-called heroes, and we are playing as a collective unit. Like I mentioned the other day, when what's it called? Joey Wendell made 2 errors, and it really cost us in the 6th inning of Saturday night's ball game. Lindor put his arm on Joey Wendell's shoulder. I said, I got you. Hit a 2-run homer and picked up Joey Wendell big time. That's what winning teams do. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this mentality. So Mendoza's comments, first he was asking about Brooks Raley. And Brooks Raley is obviously a key component of a bullpen. Really, I would say he's our, probably our second or third best reliever, but he's a very important reliever nonetheless. So when asked about Brooks Raley, Mendoza said that Raley had a tired arm after each and every appearance. So I think after the game the other day, it just wasn't recovering. So they did some imaging on the elbow, and luckily there's no structural damage. But they found inflammation. So thus, he's got to rest for 2 weeks, and then hopefully he'll be back shortly after that. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a major thing. I know in the meantime they have Grant Hartwig up here right now, but that doesn't seem like it's a big issue. The Francisco Alvarez is the big thing. Depending on where you get your information, I've heard 6 to 8 weeks. Then I've heard that there's going to be no timetable, so they have to reevaluate in the future. Obviously, we don't really want to hear that. We're already down Ronnie Mauricio, but at the end of the day, good teams find a way. Okay, so the next thing that they spoke to Carlos Mendoza about was, how do you feel? You beat the Braves and you beat the Dodgers. What does this mean that you took 2 series from those good franchises? And basically, Carlos Mendoza responded like this. It means that we are just, bottom line, a good team. We are a good team, and we are able to beat good teams. So that's what Carlos Mendoza. And I like Carlos Mendoza's demeanor. He acts like he's been there. He acts like he expects to win. When you project that to the players, that is what I like. Act like a champion. Walk like a champion. The thing that I did like about guys like Derek Jeter is every time, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, they would win or advance to the World Series, it would just be part of the business, like they're doing the job. I do like the fact that guys celebrate, guys are excited, but there is when you have that business like demeanor and you expect to win, that also does a lot. There is a mental aspect to the game. So I do like that specific component that Mendoza does bring. Expect to win. Expect to win. That is very, very important. And the next question they asked Mendoza was, how do you feel about Adrian Hauser? He walked four guys this game. His control really wasn't there. He gave up 8 runs. The last outing, he gave up 5 walks. So what do you feel? And, this was another response. Whether Adrian Hauser is going to be here for the long term or whatever role he's going to take, I do like the fact that he is kind of instilling confidence in these guys. Very confidently, he responded that Adrian Hauser is executing, he's making his pitches, and he's throwing all his pitches. He'll be fine. But he said it in such a, where he has no concerns in the world and he has all the confidence in the world in Adrian Hauser. And whether he means it or not, the players need to hear that. They need to hear their manager have their back. At the end of the day, I think that is very important. Yeah, you could play mind games with certain players. Oh, yeah, this guy needs to perform this and that. But I think at the end of the day, players want managers to support them, especially in the media, and when asked about with questions. So I like that. I like that. The guy had a horrible performance. There's no doubt about it. He didn't keep us in the game. There was really nothing I could think positive, but the manager still has his back. Also, I really gotta say this. If you're a New York sports fan, this is actually a perfect time. Knicks just won their first round of the playoff game, and the Philadelphia and Sixers, they look like it's a little going to be a tough for them. It's going to be a tough series with Joel Embiid with that knee. It's going to be really tough. And the Rangers today, they look really sharp, winning their games 4-1. The Mets won 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. So you got to be feeling good. You really got to be feeling good. Okay, so let's look at some of the AAA options. And this is really good to look at the Mets AAA team because it kind of shows you the depth that the Mets actually have. So, and I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna show you exactly what the Mets. Okay, so if we go through the depth, and obviously losing Brooks Raley, we might need some pitching help in the next week or two. So this is just the roster that we have in AAA, and Stearns made acquisition, so this is who we have in AAA. So we have pitchers Kyle Crick, John Duplantier, don't know much about him. Shintaro Fujinami, that was an acquisition over the offseason. Dom Hammer, one of our young promising guys. Tyler J, Nate Lavender, he was a very big surprise in spring training. So he's a guy that, he's in AAA. Joey Lucchesi, of course. Bryce Montes de Aca, Luis Moreno, Daniel Nunez, Sean Reed Foley, obviously Christian Scott, Cole Susser, Mike Vassell, Josh Walker. So those are some pitching options. Catching, everybody's asking, who do we have catchers? We don't have that much, I would say, talented guys in the upper levels. AAA, obviously we have right here Austin Allen, Joe Hudson, and Matt O'Neill. And I wouldn't be surprised if anybody has ever heard of these guys or have never heard of these guys. Austin Allen is a guy, who's basically a career minor leaguer. So if we went to a guy like that, as we could see some of the stats right here, 2024, he has 11 at-bats, 1 home runs, 3 RBIs, 273 batting average. So, that's nothing special. So catching options, we don't really have many catching options in the upper minor leagues. We have some, decent catching options, but they're a couple years away. The catching option that was supposed to be ready, but he's not developed yet, would be Kevin Parada. Kevin Parada does, he is getting better I would say with his pitch recognition, he's taking more pitches, he's walking more. I believe he has an on base of about 400. He's in double A, so that's why he's not over here. He has an on base of about 400, and he's batting around 200 right now. He's had about 40 at bats, but I believe they're still developing him. So I believe it's just going to be a steady diet of Omar Narvaez and Tomas Nido. We could also make acquisitions. Stearns can make an acquisition, or he can make some type of trade. But at the AAA, as we can see, we don't really have many catching options. Infielders at the AAA level, we have Acuna, Banyan, G-Man Choi, Jose Iglesias, Luke Ritter, and Mark Vientos. So that's what we have infield wise. Outfielders, Carlos Cortez, Ben Gamma, Drew Gilbert, Trace Thompson. So this is essentially what we have a heartbeat away from the major leagues. So if we need to dip into our depth, this is who we could potentially go to. Like I said, catching wise, it is kind of tough. But, that's where we're developing our young guys, but they're about 2 years away. I mean, one of the guys we acquired in the Marlins trade, I think his name is Ronald Hernandez, but he is a very young prospect, solid catcher, but like I said, he's more or less 2 years away. All right, so I'm going to get into my last point of the video, and this is probably my most important point. Okay, so my last point is about David Stearns. And obviously, in the beginning of this, before the season began, I made a lot of references to Stearns being a genius. Stearns being a genius. Now, it's looking like the first couple weeks of the season, like, oh, yeah, he is a genius. He's made some great roster moves. Yeah, he didn't acquire any superstars, but he's put the perfect players on this team that have allowed us to gel. He's put Carlos Mendoza, at the helm right now. So I think he's made a lot of key moves. Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, a couple really good bullpen acquisition. So even though we don't have any star acquisitions, we made some key moves. Okay, I think we got to give David Stearns more credit than that, because a lot of people were kind of saying, hey, we got to blow it up. We got to blow it up. We were horrible last year. We failed big time. I think David Stearns took a different perspective. I think he looked at this situation way differently than that. I think he looked at it like, we had a lot of talent in this team, a lot of talent. And you could see a lot of the guys who are successful are guys who were on the team last year. So David Stearns kind of saw your team, the players, they're not performing, yes, but they are not being put in positions to succeed, number one. So he possibly could have said your analytics are wrong. Number two, management. Are we underestimating kind of how bad Buck could have been? Was Buck a guy who kind of pushed people in different cliques? Did he really hurt the culture on this team? Because we all know Buck was knowledgeable. We all know he knows a lot, but he's very notorious for in the second and third year on teams that he's been for teams not to do well. He always does well in the first year. Teams always overachieve, but in the second and third years, the teams seem to go down, have a downward trajectory. So was David Stearns able to recognize the Buck effect, and was he able to recognize how much talent we actually had on this team, and that it wasn't necessary to make many moves? We just had to supplement that talent with guys like Bader, Tyrone Taylor, Adrian Hauser. We could make acquisitions like Severino and Manaea and still be okay. And still be okay, because our bullpen is almost the same as last year. You look at that, Diaz, Ottavino, Raley, a lot of the guys in the bullpen who are successful are guys who are in our minor league system. So we didn't make a lot of changes there. So I got to give David Stearns a credit. Even though he didn't go out and make that major superstar acquisition, I think it was genius in the fact that he knew he could make these moves to spark the team. It was genius to get a guy like Carlos Mendoza. It was genius not to make any big trades. And it was genius to have confidence in the players that he already had on this roster. What do you think about that? Comment about that, please. I love to hear your opinion. Um, and I'm very confident going forward. San Fran is next. San Fran is next. Let's continue to take series. Let's continue to improve. So we're 12-9 right now. We're a couple games back, obviously behind the Braves, but we're only in April. We're only in April. We are right now building. We're building, and I think we're building something extremely special. So thank you as always. Again, if you didn't like and subscribe, I really do appreciate it. I really do. Thank you again and have a great night.